My name is Lauren Card. I'm the Director of Education, Engagement, and Inclusion at Ensemble Theater Cincinnati, and welcome to Meet the Artist. As you may know, during the regularly scheduled season, the second and third Thursdays of the runs of our shows, afterwards we have our Meet the Artist talkbacks in our bar. But since we are unable to be in our space and you are unable to join us there, we wanted to be able to bring these conversations to you. So tonight we have a very special guest, a actor, choreographer, teaching artist extraordinaire, and I'm very fortunate to call him my friend, Darnell Pierre Benjamin.
Hey there.
Hey Darnell, how you doing?
I am well. Had a pretty productive day. How are you?
Good, good. You know, webinar after webinar, but keeping living my life on Zoom, I think, like the rest of the world right now.
Right. You know, we're all seeing each other through screens.
It's really great to see you. Thank you so much for joining us tonight. It's great to have you.
That's great for you. I'm glad you're having me here. So, teamwork.
So, as we said, your title, we like to refer to you as an actor, a choreographer, a teaching artist. If you could just briefly break those down for us.
Well, you know, so when I first started in the arts, I started as a dancer, and dance pretty quickly got me into musical theater. And then from there, I got interested in choreographing, and then I was interested in directing. I've always been that kid who wanted to do a little bit of everything. And it was in grad school that the conversation about broadening your brand came up. And so for me, that became a moment of sort of realization that, you know what, I can actually do those different things. Like, because what I get from being an actor is, for me, is that symbiotic energy that happens in a space with an audience. There's nothing that beats that, and the opportunity for education, you know? And then you get into choreography, that is creating a story through movement, which, how fun. So, and then, you know, as far as teaching artists is concerned, when I was in grad school, that's when I first had to lead a class, you know, as a TA, and then I taught my own class. And over the years, I've been teaching different classes with companies and started teaching at universities. And so, yeah, I mean, you learn so much teaching.
Oh my gosh, yeah. I think my first year teaching, that was the realization I had, that I felt like I learned more from breaking it down for my students than I had in my classes. I'm sorry, my teachers who might be watching. But not that I didn't learn from them, but teaching others, you know, because you get rid of all those bad habits. There's just so much to it. So, you know, Cincinnati is very fortunate to know you as kind of a staple on our theatrical scene. But if you could just tell us a little bit of like your background. Where did you grow up? Like, you know, where are you from?
Well, I am originally from a tiny little town named St. Martinville, Louisiana. And I don't know, I kind of was late to getting into the arts. I was 14. Because I remember when I was like really, really young, I was so shy. I just wasn't comfortable with doing any of that stuff. And it wasn't until a little later that I slowly started coming out of my shell. And then I got my BFA from University of Louisiana at Lafayette. And then I had a little year break, and then I went to grad school at University of Houston, and I got my MFA in classical theater performance. And that was probably the best decision I've ever made in my life, was going to University of Houston. And from there, I did a little bit of work here and there, and then had an audition that got me here to Cincinnati. And I originally came here for what was going to be a 1-year contract, and that another door opened, and as it's gone on, I've sort of found a really, really, really amazing artistic home here.
Yeah, it was one of the things you and I talked about is we've actually known each other for a decade this spring, that it has been 10 years since you and I met.
Yeah, I know. Isn't that crazy? And like, who would have thought that here we'd be, you know?
You know, life works out the way it's supposed to, whether we know it at the moment or not.
Absolutely. I always say, just enjoy the ride.
So then what brought you to Ensemble Theater?
Well, so when I moved here, before I even moved here, actually, I sent out a bunch of postcards. I just finished graduating from grad school, and sent out a bunch of postcards to theaters, no expectations. And then I started paying attention to you guys, like your website and which shows you were doing, and I was really interested. And I was like, okay, I got to get in that door. And for a long time, I did the thing that all hungry actors, performers do. I emailed, I showed up to events, I supported, and of course, auditioned many times. and and whenever I would audition, you kept waiting for that time when it's like, oh, it's gonna happen, it's gonna happen. And then it eventually did with Around the World in 80 Days. That was the first show I got to do in Ensemble, and I think that was 2013.
Wow.
Yeah, 2013. And then from there, it just kind of, then Detroit 67 happened. And that was actually my first equity contract. So that's kind of awesome.
And that is so important to ETC, just kind of in our journey in working with Dominique Morisseau and her writing. That was the first of her pieces in the trilogy that we produced. And as anyone who's watching may know, we went on to do Skeleton Crew, and then this year we were abruptly interrupted of our production of Pipeline. But Detroit 67 really kicked it off for us with working with her.
And I mean, what a great fortune to be able to say those words. I consider her to be like the continuation of where we had to stop with Raisin in the Sun to oh my goodness, what's the name of that one with the oh gosh, I can't remember the name right now, but it's by Lorraine Hansberry.
Oh.
It's escaping me right now, but another great. So, and I see Dominique as really the 2020 voice of what she was saying at that time, and I look forward to what's coming out of her, because already she's kind of even like getting close to treading on August Wilson, and she's gonna end up with her own like amazing collection.
Yeah, I often refer to her as his contemporary. Because she so clearly was inspired by his work.
Oh yeah.
And how can you not be? I mean, just
seriously. And even I think about how awesome it is, how many theaters now like are really leaning on August like so much lately. You're seeing so many theaters doing it, and what a joy. And Dominique, glad that she's in that same place. I mean, she's really kind of climbed up quickly, and it makes me wonder, how much I would love to hear her story. You know what I mean? The background as far as how much she had to do to even get to that point. It's inspiring to see what she writes and how she's so connected to her love of Detroit. There's just something about that. I love that connection to home.
So for those of you who are just joining us, this is Ensemble Theater Cincinnati's Meet the Artist. My name is Lauren Carm, the Director of Education, Engagement, and Inclusion. And tonight I have with me Darnell Pierre Benjamin, actor, choreographer, teaching artist extraordinaire, incredible human. So we were talking about Detroit 67, but so after you were in Detroit at ETC, you kind of got on a roll, I would say, in being in our holiday shows.
Yeah, because I had a year off after Around the World in 80 Days. And then suddenly I got to do Cinderella. And what a blast. I mean, talk about like a great cast of people. It was a blast every single day. And I mean, one of the things I love more than anything about doing a holiday show at Ensemble is that opportunity to be in the room with the composer and the writer and really break things apart and understand from where they're coming, and also be able to give our own input to have opportunity to really like craft these characters and make them our own.
Well, and some people may not know that the shows that we do for our holiday season aren't just picked out of the ether. They are commissioned and written for Ensemble Theater by David Kaiser and Joe McDonough. We're very fortunate to have this local duo, team up to write these pieces specifically for our audiences.
Yeah. I mean, if anything, and both of them, what's so fun is they have a great balance between being so incredibly professional and at the same time not taking themselves too seriously. It's always a fun time in the room, seriously. And that was my first one back after that year away.
So after Cinderella, then you did, what was after Cinderella?
After Cinderella, oh, ha, ha, ha. The Legend of Georgia McBride, I think. I'm pretty sure it was following that.
You know, that show is one show that we hear from our audiences, our patrons, our subscribers so often, of just being such a, similar to the way that Hedwig was, right? It was such a defining moment for Cincinnati theater. And so often we talk about your work in that, your monologue at the end that just slayed us all, your death drop, like.
Honestly, that was one of the most life-changing shows I've ever done. And I don't say things like that lightly. I know a lot of people talk about like, oh, I did this show and oh my goodness, it changed my life. You know, that's very few for me, but that is one of those that, I mean, it's a mixture of a lot of different things. I always said that what got me into theater in arts in general was always the opportunity for activism, the opportunity to say words that got people to think, that got them to question their own actions, how we can be better, how we can grow. I mean, I know that sounds so, kumbaya, but for me, that's a real thing. I genuinely connect to that whole idea of being able to use the arts as an opportunity for education and for activism. And that show was, for me, the epitome of that. And it was the beginning of what, for me, changed the direction I started leaning towards in the arts. Because now everything I'm about is arts activism. Do I have an opportunity to do that in this show? Is there something in this show that will give me more than just getting on stage and kickball changing? You know what I mean? Like really, really. And I mean, I think that, yeah. So
Well, that goes back to the heart of ensemble theater, and the mission that Lynn has really set out for us to be a theater with a social conscience, right? We want to be able to push those buttons and to maybe talk about those things that make people feel a little bit uncomfortable, which is why we should have the conversations, right? If anyone's uncomfortable with something, we should talk about it.
absolutely. And what surprised me more than anything is whenever anyone who's seen me at Ensemble perform asks me about a show or wants to talk to me about a show, it is always The Legend of Georgia McBride. Every single time. And it's been surprising that, you would expect it be some like, funky hipster couple who's like, oh my goodness, this is so awesome. It's across the board. There's no, I mean, demographics wise, all over the place, people really were affected by that show. And I mean, what a great opportunity. I can't tell you how much that show means to me.
Well, two of your cast members have joined us here tonight. Michael Bath and Michael Carr both have commented that they would really enjoy Azima right about now. So we've got some amazing comments regarding Georgia. But one of my favorite things that you did in that show, not that I could even begin to mention all of them, but your roller skating abilities. And then you continued those roller skating abilities in, yes.
Yes, indeed. Oh my goodness. Can we please make that happen again?
Oh my gosh, it's everything. Just that moment.
That stomach back.
But you continued your roller skating then in the holiday show with Alice in Wonderland.
Yes, yes, yes. And oh my goodness, especially during the transitions, I had a blast. There were a couple nights where there were some near disasters, but it never was. I remember there's this one day when we were in tech where I had to skate around and grab the miniature table and just skate off. And I kept, no, it wasn't picking it up. It was to drop it down, put it down. And I kept making it crooked. And I kept going back and forth because I'm so obsessive about getting it right. So what a great opportunity to be able to skate again on the stage.
So, thinking about the holiday shows, one of the things that, I get the privilege, and it truly is an absolute privilege, to work on are our fairy godmother performances. Yeah. So for people who do not know, for those of you who are joining us, each holiday season, and actually throughout the year if requested, Ensemble Theater provides tickets complimentary to schools that may not have the resources to pay to attend a student matinee, and we provide transportation and snacks at intermission, because a lot of the kids, because the school day is so crazy right now, and well, it's even crazier right now, but with lunch being, around like 10:30 in the morning. So the snacks are very important. But could you talk a little bit about what it is to be an actor on stage for these kids who it may be their first time seeing a theatrical performance, and just what kind of impact that you feel?
Yeah. Well, first, I do have to reply to Carolyn and say, whenever you are ready to direct a production of Starlight Express, or if Ensemble wants to bring that one back, let's do this. Let's pull Xanadu in there as well. So, okay, now with the Fairy Godmother program, I didn't know about it before I did Around the World in 80 Days. That was my first experience with that, specifically, at Ensemble doing that. And I remember thinking, first of all, it was a simple thing. I love kids, the energy of kids, that sort of palpable, unapologetic audience experience you get with them. There's nothing more magnetic than that. But then there's the other side of it. I mean, I grew up in a small little town, and the arts weren't necessarily not there. It's just that my little town, there's quite a divide as far as race is concerned. When I was younger, I mean, I didn't see, anytime I saw those type of places, it wasn't, a lot of times I read it as there was a separation anyway. But so for me, I didn't get a lot of experience of seeing things. I was very ignorant. Even when I went to college, I was very ignorant to opportunities and to what's out there. So for me, I guess what I'm getting at is being able to do the Fairy Godmother program it's so important for me to see a kid who sees me and sees themselves, like little Black kids, little queer kids. I mean, I think what an amazing opportunity to be able to be that person who, without even having to tell them, just helps them understand an opportunity, something that they may not have thought about. I mean, I think about even the kids who ask questions like, are you real? I mean, that question really gets asked. And I think it's because these kids, they see TV, they don't have an understanding of we are real people and not like behind a screen up there. And so there's just something really magical about changing somebody's perspective.
Well, that is so fun, because you're saying, as they ask questions, because after the shows, for the students, all of the cast lines the lobby, and truly is that, love and goodbye and thank you to
oh God,
as they leave.
I can't handle that. Oh my goodness, you're absolutely right. It's so amazing how, I guess, the comfort they have. A lot of them, they will throw themselves at us. I mean, it's this extreme excitement. And for me, I'm weird about touch, let alone the virus, you know what I mean? But there's something that you can't help it. It's like, oh my God, come, please let me hug you. The kids are fantastic. And the energy in the lobby is just insane. It's great. And it's a good send off to the day because, with our Fairy Godmother program shows, we are performing at 10 in the morning. So that's the start of my day, and I get to leave with that energy. It's pretty magical.
Yeah. I mean, even being on my side, on the administrative side of it, it's just, they're invigorating. They really are. So, we've talked about that you are an actor, and we're going to get to your teaching here in a second because it's one of my favorite things about you. But, you kind of talked about choreography, and there are some things that I don't know if people necessarily know about you. So we were very fortunate to have you work as a choreographer for ETC as well.
Yeah.
And kind of one of the things that really stands out in my mind was last year, again, Dominique, with Skeleton Crew.
Yes. Well, talk about a challenge. So in a good way, too, a good challenge. So in the script, she's both specific and ambiguous, but specific in the sense that she lets you know the energy of what she wants from each of these transitional storytelling moments. But there's not a lot of information as far as saying, does it need to be live? Does it need to be video? Is it dance? Or is it just working in a shop, because since everything's set up in this car factory, so my brain kind of went wild in the beginning, and I had so many ideas, and eventually got to a point where I realized, why can't it be both? It could be in the shop literally, and it could be choreography. And so I just did a lot of research. I can't even tell you. So I'm not a car person. I don't understand those things. And I spent so much time researching how they build cars, how the machinery works. That's my favorite part of the process, whether that's an actor, dancer, choreographer, teacher. I love the research. I love the homework. I love digging into something and learning something new and being surprised. And for me, watching those videos of the mixture between the ones that were people making, like actually doing things, versus machinery, I don't know, it was a beautiful thing. And from there, what I decided to do with that is say, you know what, I'm going to just have a party. And the process was fantastic because I had 3 amazing dancers with me who helped create this thing and be my guinea pigs to play in the beginning, because it was trial and error a lot of the time. And the more and more we started going through it, the more specific and fun it got. I mean, that was actually one of my favorite of the ones that I did, where the idea was that there was a car that we were bringing down, and we were the machinery doing it. It's kind of where I went. So I kind of had us be a hybrid between, I guess, ultimately robots, the mixture of machinery and people. Well, I guess robots, but robots that look like people. But yeah, that was a blast, and I was very grateful to have the opportunity.
Yeah, and so often we're very fortunate again in having you in our shows as that role of dance captain.
Yeah.
A lot of times, people may not necessarily know when they see that in the playbill what that means. Can you kind of break down like what layman's terms?
Yeah, absolutely. So you have your choreographer, and your choreographer is the person who sets the movement storytelling to your piece, to the play or the musical. And what the dance captain does is the dance captain is kind of almost a shadow of the choreographer, not in the sense of creating anything unless the choreographer asks. But your job as the dance captain is to know all of the choreography, to be able to teach it whenever the choreographer isn't able to be there, and to be able to also keep it intact throughout the run of the show. Because there's going to be moments where, everybody has off performances and little things happen. And the job of the dance captain is to bring that to people's attention. And you work very closely with the stage manager to make sure, you're kind of properly going through the right channels and not, because obviously feelings come into play. And so I think dance captain is pretty much the shadow, the remnants of what was.
What's been really fun for me in doing these live Meet the Artist is really the opportunity to show our audience, or to explain to our audiences how truly collaborative theater is. So, several weeks ago, we had Brandon Holmes, our stage manager, on talking about his job, and we had Aaron Carr talking about intimacy coordination, and you talking about, choreography and dance captain, but all of those moving parts have to be so collaborative. They've got to work together, or the whole machine, if you will, just can crumble, and under the direction of the director, right? So there's just so much of it that I think so often it's easy to go to see a show and think those actors did an incredible job and look at that wonderful, like they looked great, and without really truly remembering how many other people it took to make sure that that performance is consistent and it is there and it is the quality that the collective is looking for.
Absolutely. I mean, that's one of the many reasons why whenever I see a movie, I always stay through the credits, because I feel like it's my responsibility, especially as a performer, to give also equal respect to all the people who were behind the scenes and made that magic happen. And I think it's no different than whenever I have friends who go see, particularly my friends who are like not big theater goers. I'm always saying, make sure you look through the program. just look through the program. I can't tell you how many times even I, looking through programs, have been surprised when I saw somebody doing something that I didn't know they did. Or when you're looking at donors or sponsors and being surprised by friends of mine who've been so generous to theaters. And of course, duh, that makes me feel good because I'm like, thank you for supporting the cause. Thank you.
Well, and even then, I mean, you're talking about the playbills, that someone puts that together. So that is
Right.
another piece of it that really so often does go unrecognized, that is another form of art that is being created in order to make that, something that we're able to look at and read.
Right.
So one of the things that, I said I would jump back on this. You are an incredible actor. You are an incredible choreographer. You work so often with Pones, an incredible organization in Cincinnati. You are directing. You're directing The Agitators. I know you were working on that with Falcon Theater. But you are a teaching artist.
Mm-hmm.
And I have had the extreme pleasure of being able to hire you to teach for ETC Summer Stock for the past 2 years. And seeing you work with the students is just transformative.
Mm-hmm.
It is just the way that you are able to connect with them on a completely different level is just mind-blowing. And I'm saying that as a theater teacher myself, right? So
Yeah.
I've been doing this for a very long time, and I've watched students connect with the material that you present to them in a way that I just have not seen them be able to do otherwise.
I think most of thank you, first of all. That's very kind. Teaching is a terrifying thing. It really is, because you are ultimately claiming responsibility over these people's education, whether they're kids or adults, it doesn't matter, but you are absolutely putting yourself in that seat to say that you're going to be responsible. And for me, what I learned early on is physicality has always been necessary for me to learn. I'm a very tactile person. I never did well, for example, in school in those lecture classes. Mm-hmm. Oh God, so hard for me. And because I need like engagement always, and physical engagement even more. And so a lot of my teaching perspective comes from a lot of studying Chekhov and understanding the physicality of storytelling and of connecting with people and of connecting the mind and the body kind of thing. And from there, for me, what then it becomes is also freeing myself, just allowing myself to be Darnell, and not, because I feel like, what happens a lot of times in the classroom, it's that fine line of, you want to make sure they can trust you and are going to come to you if they need to. And also you holding authority, of course. Mm-hmm. And what I find myself doing a lot is straddling this fine line of juggling them really well. And I think most of it is because I try to be authentically me every single time I'm in a classroom. I try, and it's tough because obviously, it can be tough for a lot of different reasons, depending on what schools you're working, where you're working, or, do you know what I mean? Especially when you're doing it through another company, you have to ultimately represent that company. And there are some times that you have to kind of like, all right, I'm gonna put a lid on that thought. You know what I'm talking about.
I do all too well. Yes. For anyone who has joined us, my guest tonight is Darnell Pierre Benjamin. And if you do have any questions for him about being an actor, a choreographer, a teaching artist in the Greater Cincinnati area and beyond, please feel free to go ahead and put that in the comment box, and we will definitely address your questions. Darnell, one of the things in having you teach with our camps, it was such a new camp. This will be our third summer. But when I first asked you to teach, you said something to me that has stuck with me, because I did not come to you and ask you to teach movement. Mm-hmm. And I think that was what you kind of expected from me. I asked you to teach script analysis.
Yes. So, okay. And that meant the world to me, because, I don't get a lot of those teaching opportunities unless it's like for example, with I've done summer camps elsewhere where we have like, you know, but we're all there for like the whole time and we teach different things. But that was the first time I got to do a whole week of something like script analysis with teenagers. And what got me into, particularly when I really got into Shakespeare, it was text. It's the power of words, and not even just the power of words, but even the dance of them, linguistics and alliteration, assonance, all that stuff. And for me, so script analysis is taking all that understanding with, of course, dramatic structure and all that other stuff, and finding out what is the heart of a story, piece by piece, breaking it completely apart. And I'm a dissector. At one time, I wanted to be a surgeon. I really thought I was going to go to school to be a surgeon at one point, because I'm really fascinated with taking things apart and understanding them. I talk a lot about understanding. I like to understand things. And so for me, a class like script analysis is heaven.
Well, I understand that because I was going to be a lawyer.
Oh.
Because, and you know me, I can argue a point. So I want to kind of address a couple of the questions. Becca has a great question. What was your experience with dance and choreography as a child or before coming to Cincinnati?
Oh, wow. What a great question. Oh, my. So I grew up in a southern small little town, and a lot of the music that I grew up around was Motown and Zydeco music. So, and all of that there was an energetic, special something about those types of music that just seeps in your soul. And so movement and dance was always a part of my family's gatherings and stuff. So we were always dancing. And even as a shy kid, I always danced. It may have taken me a little while to get enough people out there, but I would eventually do it. And so dance had always been a part of my understanding of communicating. And particularly when I got into therapy is really where I started learning how to use movement as a tool. So it was kind of a no-brainer that I had to continue on in that path and use it in my life. And so, yeah, that was my experience of dance and choreography as a child.
Well, you saying, using movement as a tool, that leads us perfectly into Sharice's question. Was Darnell, what is your favorite movement style to teach? Ooh, that's heavy.
What?
Do you have one?
I'm all over the place.
Held it together.
So a lot of my, I think what I would say my favorite style would be fusions. I tend to like mixing different genres, different styles of movement together, particularly in my choreography. I am heavily inspired by 90s hip hop choreo. I'm heavily inspired by some good old swing dancing. I love high energy movement that has funk. And so what I like to do is, particularly when I'm doing classical work, choreographing for like, a traditionally classic sort of dance style thing, like let's say a minuet, I'm going to find some way to get a little bit of stank in there. So I think my favorite is putting a little bit of hip hop in everything.
So, yes, Carolyn, I'm just going to answer your question. Carolyn asked, don't all roads come back to Chekhov?
Oh, you better come through the door, Carolyn. You done came through twice. Thank you. You are absolutely right. Mind and body connection, y'all. Get into it.
So we've got a great question from Amy. What has been your most defining role as an actor? No pressure.
Wow. Wow spelled backwards. It's still wow. Defining role. I think I would have to say I'm going back and forth and back and forth and back and forth. How about this? Can I give it in two parts? Can I give a classical one and a contemporary one?
Absolutely. It's like an audition. You got your contrasting pieces.
Come on, come through. So I'm going to say definitely Aaron the Moor from Titus Andronicus. And surprisingly, I'm even going to go with the first time we did it. The first time I did it, 'cause I did it twice, and the first time was I think it was the moment where I realized I finally, I guess, got, because I feel like I've always been seen as the good guy, the lover, the old trusty best friend, and it was one of the first times that I got like a villain, and I mean a nasty one. And I feel like for me, it changed a lot of things in the way I allowed myself to see myself. And it allowed me to also, I don't know, it began to change into a deepening of myself in a lot of different ways. And then I think for a non Shakes classic one, I'm going to say probably Belize and Angels in America. Just stank. That was good. I mean, really, like, I mean, what a joy for a I mean, I think about like when I was younger, I never saw any depictions, or I didn't come into a lot of plays came later, like when I was in college. So all throughout, and because everything we did at so at the high school where I went, we didn't have any kind of funding. I was a part of the first graduating class. So we didn't have, like, it was a freshman high that each year they added another year to it. And so we were part of the first graduating class. And so we had no funding, particularly the drama department. So we wrote all of our stuff. And so I never got the opportunity to have a character so Black, gay, and just rich. It was just, it was, yeah, that was one for the books.
So as we start to wrap up, there have been a couple comments from a friend of ours, Ray Kuhn, asking about the agitators.
Yes.
And just that they are very excited that you're going to be directing that show and that you're working on that. And you were working on that when the pandemic hit. Is that right?
Yeah, we were actually, oh gosh, well, I mean, not to get into a lot of detail, but we were supposed to go into tech the Saturday before the Monday stay-at-home order, and that did not happen, obviously, because by that Thursday, it was that Thursday that everything had shut down. I think it was at 100 or less at that point. And so, yeah, we did not get to finish this, but it is just postponed. It is not, and we have dates now. So ultimately, Agitators is about the 45-year friendship between Susan B. Anthony and Frederick Douglass, and about the complications whenever you are both fighting for the same thing, but because of different perspectives, got a little bit of this, which, I mean, you know, I'm not going to get political. But I think it's an important script. It's an important story for so many reasons. I think a lot of people are not even aware that they were friends for so many years and very close, intimate friends. And on top of that, the writing. Matt Smart wrote a brilliant script. It's really good. And I think at this time when there's so many polarized things, now is the time to see a play that, you know, is talking about that same thing. And I know that, you know, and I remember, anyway, no, I don't have to talk about that.
Well, one of the reasons that I wanted to make sure that we address Ray's question is because she is actually going to be one of our guests next week.
Hey, and also Ray is the one who has done the design for the set for Agitators, and it's amazing. So come see it.
Yes. So this week we were very fortunate to have Darnell with us, and thank you so much. It is always such a pleasure working with you, even at this far distance, which is well beyond 6 feet. You are so far away from me right now. But next week we are so excited to be welcoming, again, talking about just how collaborative the theater arts are and all of the moving parts and all of those little pieces. we are going to have on Jack Murphy, our technical director, and Ray Kuhn, our scenic charge artist and production assistant. So we're going to have a very different side of the story, but we're very excited to have them. And thank you again, Darnell. Thank you so much for joining us tonight.
Thank you. Seriously, this was an absolute just pleasure. Thanks for having me.
Thank you. And thank you everyone who's watching. If you do have any questions for our artists after, feel free to put them in the comments. Don't worry. They're on the social media. We're all at a distance right now. This is the one thing that can bring us all together. Thank you so much for joining us. Thank you so much, Darnell. Everyone have a great night.
Night.